Still in awe over that picture right there. It's pretty impressive stuff. So glad you're with us here on this Tuesday. I'm Eric Connard.
And I'm Netta Irampour. Yeah, it might be a good day to go out into nature. In fact, this week, let's check in with meteorologist Evan Nurani. The forecast sounds pretty nice.
It's a fantastic one. Just getting warmer as the upcoming weekend approaches. Today, we're a little bit cooler than normal. We're slightly cooler than yesterday. Clouds join us very similar to yesterday. And then by mid-morning, 7, 8 a.m., we tend to see those clouds break apart pretty quickly. Instead of making it into the 70s today across our valley floors, we're only expected to be in the upper 60s. Again, not much of a deviation out there, just a few degrees cooler than yesterday. Clouds are just about the same, extending all the way to the western slopes of the mountains for the most part. And then we'll get that afternoon sunshine on hand. Coming up, we'll talk more about that ridge of high pressure that's going to build into the weekend, help to warm our temperatures up to a very spring-like range. That's in just a few. Back to you.
New this morning, a homicide investigation is underway after a woman was killed in Ramona. It was reported just before 9 last night on Rancho Villa Road. The sheriff's department saying the 50-year-old woman was stabbed inside of a residence. They don't have any information on the suspect. If you know anything, you saw anything, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers.
This morning, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria getting ready to announce a series of budget cuts.
Right now, the city is facing a significant budget deficit. CBS 8's Regina Yarita live downtown now with a closer look at what could be targeted here. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Netta and Eric. And as you mentioned, this comes as the city faces a significant budget deficit. We're talking a $250 million budget deficit. Now, Mayor Todd Gloria was hoping Measure E would pass back in November to sort of balance out the budget or even close the gap of that budget with that tax measure. But now it brings us to today. A meeting is expected to take place later this morning to discuss reductions. Mayor Todd Gloria will announce a series of budget cuts today designed to generate cost savings and minimize service level reductions. Gloria says it's time for the city to get a fair deal from entities such as the county and Caltrans when it comes to homelessness. He argues the city has for far too long shouldered the financial burden of homeless residents suffering from substance abuse and or mental health issues. He says it's time for all cities in this county to do their part and not simply rely on taxpayers to foot the bill. He says police, fire, and paramedics remain a top priority for the city despite the structural deficit. So back out here, we do know that that meeting is expected to start at 11 a.m. As mentioned, he could be announcing a series of budget cuts. So as we hear more information when that meeting takes place, we'll be sure to share it with you. But for now, I'll send it back to you.
We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
All of a sudden, everything just kind of went sideways. And then next thing I know is kind of a blink and I'm upside down, still strapped in.
Boy, could you imagine this? You just heard passengers describing the moment a Delta flight crashed, landing upside down with the wings and tail ripped off in Toronto yesterday. New video obtained by TMZ showing the terrifying landing here. Toronto's fire chief says at least 18 people, including a child, were taken to the hospital.
Now, it's a miracle here. All 80 people on board did survive this. The plane took off from Minneapolis. Canadian and U.S. officials are now investigating what happened. The cause is not known, but we can tell you meteorologists say at the time visibility was down just 6 miles and wind gusts were up to 40 miles an hour. This is just one of several aviation incidents in recent weeks. As CBS 8's Richard Allen reports, many people are wondering how safe is it to fly right now?
It's very alarming to see an airplane upside down with basically no wings on it.
North County resident Kurt Marker has been a commercial pilot since 2012. He says this recent spate of high-profile accidents, from the D.C. collision on January 29th to the medevac crash days later in Philadelphia, killing 7, to the February 6th commuter crash in Nome, Alaska, killing 10 people, has all led to a significant increase in passengers' concerns over flight safety.
The world is at a heightened alert for these aviation crashes.
Marker points to FAA data showing an average of 45,000 commercial and private jets in U.S. skies every day, carrying 2.9 million passengers. For reference, the D.C. crash was the first significant fatal crash involving a major airline in the U.S. since 2009.
Your chances are higher of getting in a serious car wreck in San Diego alone. So I still think flying is very safe.
So what major factors are involved in crashes?
The weakest link in the chain will always be the human factor because we have to make multiple decisions in how we execute what is required to accomplish the mission.
Robert Katz has been a flight instructor and commercial pilot for more than 40 years.
It all comes down to the reliability of the equipment we are flying and the skill and ability of the people who are handling this equipment.
Well, a number of factors, from weather to maintenance to human error to the sheer number of planes in the air, can all play a role. Katz says he believes it's still reasonably safe to fly. Like Marker, he points out this recent cluster of high-profile accidents involving major airlines has led to an increased sense of concern.
I think it's fairly safe so long as the aircraft is properly maintained and flown by a crew who knows what they are doing.
Richard Allen, CBS 8.
A study last year from MIT finds the odds of dying in an air disaster are about 1 in 13.7 million, while the odds of dying in a car crash over the course of a lifetime are closer to 1 in 95.
From coast to coast, thousands of people took to the streets on President's Day, and this is a look at the demonstrations here in San Diego yesterday, as well as New York City and our nation's capital. This is all part of a nationwide protest against President Donald Trump. Last night, there was another protest in support of immigrants' rights, this time in Vista. People gathered at the intersection of North Santa Fe Avenue and Bobier Drive, waving flags and holding up signs.
The president is at the head of a lot of these policies that are attacking our people. So we figured, yes, now is the time to come out.
Organizers say there will be more peaceful protests in the future. This morning, an Oceanside police officer recovering after a collision with another car on State Route 76. The crash happened yesterday morning near the northbound Interstate 5 off-ramp. Police say the officer had just finished his duties with the vice president's security team, who was in Oceanside for the past couple of days. The officer was heading back to headquarters when the crash happened. The officer was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The other driver remained on scene and is cooperating with investigators.
It is now 6:08, and yesterday I was like, do I need a sweater? I didn't at all all afternoon.
I wore a
It was
tank
great.
top when I walked to yoga yesterday
Amazing.
because it was just sunny out, and I knew that inside yoga was going to be like 100 degrees. So I was like, great. When I walk out, it'll be just a nice, comfortable
perfect.
70. Outside right now, we're mostly in the 50s, cloudy skies, overcast for the most part. Those clouds are not too low down to the ground, which means that fog isn't as much of an issue as yesterday. We saw it. On satellite radar, you can see those clouds pushing all the way to about the western slopes of the mountains. We just talked about how we're going to start to see that sun peek through as early as 7 a.m. and then through 8, 9, 10 a.m. We're under those partly cloudy skies, but generally the pattern that we've been seeing each afternoon is that we get an increasing amount of sunshine beaming down on us and fewer clouds throughout the day. And then as we get toward about 4 to 6 p.m., those clouds tend to reconvene. We yesterday had talked about Julian and how it was going to be a spot where we'd watch for those more intense wind gusts throughout the day. Those winds stayed breezy overnight. They're still breezy at times throughout the day. You see how our gusts could reach up to 25 or so miles per hour. Does not allow for a wind advisory to be issued. It's just something we'll watch for, is that breezy conditions will prevail. Julian has seen much more intense winds, but this is just going to be a stretch of onshore flow for the most part, at least as of about 10 a.m. as we head through the rest of the day. Our rain chances stay low, so we have those daily clouds with us, but those clouds are not going to be abundant enough for us to see any moisture really come down from the clouds. We got that decent dose of rain last week, so for the rest of this week into the weekend and even early next week, there's no chance for rain in the forecast. But as far as your temperatures go, there is going to be a bit of a fluctuation because of this ridge of high pressure coming in. Ridge starts to nudge in as of about Thursday. That means Friday through about Monday, Tuesday timeframe, those temperatures are well above average, and then they start to slide right back down to about average as we get toward the middle and end of next week. But it's going to be this decent bout, about 5 days or so, where those temperatures exceed average, and we could be seeing afternoon highs near 75 degrees across a good portion of the county. Let's take a look at traffic. Drive times outside are very mild, considering the commute is just starting to pick up. 5 southbound, 78 westbound, and 52 westbound all looking green out there. Let's take a look at your border wait times right now, where the wait time at the San Ysidro Port of Entry is about 180 minutes. Going to take you quite a while to get across. 90 minutes at the Otay Mesa Port of Entry, so should be able to get across about double the speed. More is on our website at cbs8.com/traffic.